I know I already went live earlier today, so if I'm too much, then that's fine. You can tune out. But I wanted to um, just kind of share something because I just got off of an interview with Candice Kelly, the host of Mental Cement, which is an awesome podcast. And she's based in North Carolina. And what she wanted to do for her audience was to do a live coaching session where she put herself out there and she was like, hey, I need coaching around this. Can you help me? And she was going through something that I think a lot of people go through, especially the millennial generation and potentially the Gen X generation, but really it has to do with, any generation and their relationship with the previous generation. Um, for a lot of folks, and I know this is me included, our parents worked really hard to give us the life that we have. And they had to work like crazy hours. They had to do all of this stuff. They had to hold on a bunch of jobs. They had to pay off a ton of debt. They had to do all this stuff so that they could move the starting line for the next generation, for us to start, or for their kids to start off on a better foot than they had. And for that new generation, there can be a lot of guilt. There can be this lot of expectation and story of, in order for you to succeed, for your value to be worth anything, in order for your achievements to be worthy, you got to struggle. It's got to be difficult. You've got to go through certain painful things in order to be successful, right? And in order to feel proud of what you've accomplished. And for our generation and for the millennial generation, I'm like at the older end of the millennial generation, but whatever, this current young people generation is faced with a lot of opportunity, right? Because of technology and because of there's a lot of openness to designing your own future instead of plugging into a specific path, career-wise at least. And because of that, it can feel like, well, I'm not having to work 3 jobs in a factory and walk uphill 10 miles in the snow every day to make money. I can do it by sitting in my living room and talking to the internet. I can do it by doing something that I love instead of something that I hate. Because the old story of work has got to be something that is awful. Like, work sucks. You just got to put up with it. You got to stick it out for 40, 50 years, and then you got to get the pension and retire. But the whole thing has got to be really painful, and you work for that retirement, and you're supposed to not enjoy anything in the meantime. That story, when we don't align with that, and we're making money and not having to go through those things, or we're doing a career that's never been heard of before, or we're doing non-traditional things, there's a lot of being out of alignment with that old story, right? That old story of life has got to be hard. It's got to be a struggle. And you're not doing it right if you're not struggling. That can be when your real life isn't matching up with that old story that you were brought up with. There's a lot of guilt there. That can feel like you're doing something wrong or you're letting someone down. And that's what this interview or this podcast host wanted to get coached around. And I was like, all right, girl, we're going to get real personal and your audience is going to really get in there. But it was awesome. She was very vulnerable and she was like, hey, the community I'm from, it's supposed to be a struggle. And that's a whole other story about cultural expectations of what the story, not just of what your parents think about work, but the culture from which you come. There's a story there. There's a cultural narrative that if you don't fit that narrative, are you betraying your culture? Are you stepping outside and you're being a traitor? These words came out. And I'm just so proud of her for being open, first of all, to writing a new story for herself. Because she could very easily say, no, I have to struggle, so I'm going to make my life harder than it has to be. And honestly, that's what I did. I really resented the fact that I didn't have to work not manually, but I wasn't having the same struggle as my parents when I was deciding what I was going to do with my life, when I was going through school and whatnot. So I was finding ways unconsciously to make my life harder so that I feel like I had earned this place of comfort, relative comfort, this starting line that's so far ahead of the starting line that my parents had, right? Hi, Amanda. Hey, happy birthday. Or not happy birthday. Congratulations on your trip. But it was really cool. It was really cool because she was talking about some very personal stuff. And when you feel guilty about your success, you're focusing on what you should be feeling, right? What you think you should be feeling. I'm supposed to be struggling. I'm supposed to hate my job. I'm supposed to not like Mondays. I'm supposed to be complaining about bills and all this stuff. But all of that mental and emotional energy that you're spending on what you think you should be feeling and experiencing, that's mental and emotional energy that you could be directing and repurposing and or just shifting towards the people that you want to be helping and towards the mission that you want to be serving. And when we can kind of disconnect and say, hey, the starting point where my parents were at was their starting point, and they worked hard and they pushed forward so that I could have a new starting point. I made the parallel or metaphor of kind of running a relay race where you and your family and previous generations, you're all on the same team. And every generation is running a leg of that relay race. They don't want you to start, when they pass the baton to you, they don't want you to start from the first starting line. They don't want you to run backwards. They want you to say, hey, this is your leg, go forward. We have run it this far. Take it, run with it. Let's see what you can do. We want you to succeed and get to the next baton toss point so the next generation can run even further than we have run. And by using their progress and their struggle and their accomplishment of what they've achieved up to now as an asset and as a tool and as your foundation and your new starting point, you can go forward and you can create awesome things in this world and change a lot of lives as a tribute to how far they've come, right? This isn't about feeling guilty and not running the same leg of the race as they ran. This is about saying thank you for doing that, because now that enables me to reach so many more people, to do so much more with the mental and emotional energy that I don't have to devote to coming up through the struggle that you did. I can now use that to push myself forward and to reach more people. Because I don't have to have the same struggle that you had, that means I can do so much more with that. And when we understand that, not everyone uses that, right? Of course, there's always going to be people who are like, well, I got it easy. I don't have to work, or I don't have to work as hard as they did, so I'm just going to chill. But the amazing thing is that when you realize that because you have all of this additional foundational asset, it's like wealth in whatever form it is, if it's emotional space, if it's mental space, if it's financial wealth, if it's what you do and what you've learned, your experiences, all of that collectively can be such a powerful asset to be used for good. You could just coast on it, sure. That's not what those previous generations busted their butts running that race for you was for, though, just so you can coast. There's nothing wrong with relaxing. There's nothing wrong with taking it easy, of course, absolutely. But there's such an opportunity for you to use that new starting point that the previous generation worked to get you to, and that generation before them worked to get them to. You're so much further ahead, right? That you can use that to really achieve something amazing. The question is what? you just got to choose what you want to do. You got to choose what you want to do with all this amazing wealth and all this amazing, space and energy and that starting point that you are now at, right? And that's where that can be kind of tricky, because not everyone knows what they stand for. Not everyone knows what matters to them most in the world. And even if they do, they don't necessarily know how to translate that into, well, I care about animals. What am I supposed to do with that? Adopt a bunch of animals? Like, maybe, if that's for you. But it's not necessarily scaling your impact and using your leg of that race that we're running as a team. Is it the most efficient use of that time and those assets that you carry? So anyway, Candice Kelly, she's the host of the podcast Mental Cement. She opened up during an on-the-spot live coaching session. She and I have never talked before. We've exchanged a few messages and emails, so I don't know her like very deeply. But because of what she shared, we were able to dig in and say, like, this, for you to carry around this burden of feeling guilty that the work that you do isn't as difficult as the work that your parents did, and that your life is not as much of a struggle as theirs was, for you to carry that on your back, that's taking time, focus, energy, passion, emotion away from all of these people that you're trying to reach with your podcast, with your positivity, with your message of empowerment, with reaching people with real tools and all the great things that her podcast does. So we're able to work through that so she could lift that burden and put it down and fully focus and say, I'm going to close this door with gratitude to the effort that her parents put in to help get her this new starting point. And she can use that gratitude to bring closure to that, to help enhance her relationship with her parents, and to go forward with a clear conscience and do the work that matters most. Because the work that she's doing is because she wants to help people. It's not because she wants to make money. Yes, she is making money, but money is a tool and it is a side effect and a reflection of the value that you bring to the world. She's doing that to change people's lives. Her audience is one of the traditional, I have a job and I have a bunch of kids and I want to do something more with my life, but I don't know what that is, and I don't think I'm good enough to do it. That's kind of her niche audience. When she can release the burden that she's carrying, she can serve that group way more fully. She can show up better and they can get more from her because she's not in a space of feeling guilty for what she's doing, because she loves it. Because in her mind, she grew up thinking, you're supposed to hate your job. This is supposed to be very difficult. It's supposed to be a struggle. You're supposed to be physically exhausted every day. And because she has found podcasting as a career and it comes naturally to her and she's making money off of it and it's easy to her, because of those things, it doesn't align with that old story. So she was feeling guilty and she's dedicating mental and emotional space to that disconnect, right? And to that guilt and that burden that she's carrying. So it was super cool because I got to coach her, and she was like, I feel so much lighter. Like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, because she's able to reframe the way that she has treated that story of work being a struggle, life having to struggle. And man, I gotta say, coaching is the coolest thing, because you see so many cool transformations. Like when you can experience someone else's aha moment, when they have that light bulb moment, like it's the coolest thing in the world. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. She's gonna do editing and polish up the audio and all of that stuff for the podcast, but I'll let you know when it's ready for publishing. And please listen to it, because it is not often at all that you have the opportunity to be part of someone else's coaching experience, because it's so personal and it's just usually you and the coach, and it can get super vulnerable. So for you to have insight into that experience, like, oh my gosh, it's pretty rare. So I'll let you know when it's ready. And she'll let me know a week ahead of time. So I think it's going to be a few weeks out. But definitely, like, and I'll remind you later, but definitely take advantage of that, because it's not often that you get the opportunity to watch someone else be coached and watch someone share their soul with someone else and do work on that soul. It's not just confiding in someone. It's not just saying, hey, I feel guilty around how I'm living and my existence. Like, people don't just go out and say that, but she has voluntarily put herself out there for her audience, for her audience's benefit, to say, I feel the same way, and maybe I don't have to, and maybe by feeling this, it's actually a detriment to the people I want to help. Like, she was mad props to her, because she's like putting herself out there, she's bearing her soul, and she's doing work on her soul with me, a total stranger. Like, I admire her. And I admire the work that she's doing. So anyway, all jazzed up. It's 16 minutes into this video. I hope you get something out of it. But yeah, gosh, that was an amazing experience. So that's super, super awesome. Hope you're having a great Thursday. I'll talk to you soon.